found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's UBNradio.com.
Hey, everybody, it is Wednesday, January 20th. I'm Emerson Collins.
And I'm Del Shores.
And you're listening to
The Del and Emerson Show. Straight talk.
Real gay! Oh my gosh, everybody, it is a super exciting show. Maybe because we've been awkwardly stalker obsessed with him. But we finally have the all-American boy himself, Steve Grand, joining us in the studio in a little while.
I'm so excited.
I'm so very excited.
I've been a fan from day one. The day that video hit, I posted it, and as everybody else did. And I've been really enjoying his career and seeing how he handles himself.
Yes, and because there is so much story to tell, we're going to do some quick news on our front, but bring him in a little earlier than we have brought some guests so we can do a full Barbara Walters session.
Oh, yeah.
The whole story.
You think we can make him cry?
VH1 behind the music.
You know how Barbara Walters always made someone cry.
Oh, let's not do that.
Okay, I'm not going to do that.
Of course, there's some things that happened in the week. We're not going to talk about any of the award show or nominations. We'll save those for next week because the Oscars aren't for a while and y'all can wait.
Well, I have to say before we go.
Yes?
You were so fucking hysterical on the People's Couch when Beyonce entered the room on that lip sync show. That was my favorite moment ever on the People's Couch.
For those of you who didn't get to see it, season 4 of my reality show on Bravo, The People's Couch, premiered on Friday night, and the first segment out of the gate was we watched the lip sync battle that was the Tatum Takeover with Channing Tatum and Jenna Dewan Tatum, and we were super excited. We were having a great time, and I think I mentioned it last week, but when Beyonce appeared on screen, we lost our ever-loving gay minds. I jumped off the couch. Scott flipped up on his back somehow.
You were injured.
Was rockhead high kicking and kicked me in the face.
You're okay, though?
Yes,
nothing?
our friendship only survived because they didn't leave any permanent damage. I feel like because I talk so much, the muscles right here on my jaw
I think it also
get a good
survived
workout.
because it gave you a lot of ring time. I mean, it was all over the internet.
It was.
It was like the commercial.
It was.
It was truly one of the funniest things ever. And then, of course, the grandmother's following up asking, is that Jennifer Lopez?
Yes.
That was just brilliant.
And it's what makes the show work. I think it's why people enjoy it so much is the cross-section and diversity of our opinions and responses to stuff. Because, of course, for us, there was almost nothing that could have been more exciting. And, yes, our sweet Glamoz had no idea who she was. But it was a great start. We were super excited. It seemed like the Friday night, the Twitter response, we had a great time live tweeting with so many of the fans. So I think it gave those of us that were staying in a fun thing to do and share together.
So watch them again on Friday night, y'all.
All new episode this Friday and for 10 more after that.
If you're, like me, pathetic alone at home on a Friday. I was out this time. I had to do it on Saturday.
No, we look at it as people that are choosing to spend quality time either alone or at home with the family or friends, a husband, wife, boyfriend.
Cancel your plans,
significant
y'all.
other. If you were having a
plans.
Netflix and chill night, stop and take a break at 10 o'clock and watch People's Couch with us.
There you go. All right, well, let's get into the equality update so we can get Steve in here.
So a couple of equality news. One of the things we've continued to talk about is how as the new legislatures and states come back into session in January that we have to be vigilant against religious freedom bills or bills that target particularly the trans community. And Virginia has introduced a bill exactly like we've been talking about, that seeks to prohibit elementary and high school students who identify as trans from using restrooms or locker rooms that don't match their, quote, anatomical sex, and requires local school boards to develop policies around this concept. If a student is caught violating the law, he or she will be fined $50. Now, in addition to the abhorrence of denying their identity, many advocates immediately pointed out that it sort of suddenly places teachers or administrators or school districts policing the genitalia of elementary, middle, or high school students. I mean, saying, the only way to know is to ask to see. You can't make presumptions based on hairstyle or appearance or makeup or clothing or anything at this point. So they quickly pointed out that to enforce this policy, they would have to be sexually harassing children or adolescents. The man who wrote the bill, Mark Cole, filed the bill, said the law would be enforced on a complaint basis only, saying a woman would report a man using the facility and a summons could be issued if warranted. But it doesn't deny the fact that it essentially calls upon school districts or businesses or to ask to see genitalia proof.
I just love that they're going after like kids now. I mean, it's so absurd to me and so vile and wretched. I just fuck them.
And we talked so much about, the dangers that LGBT children face. It's
Already.
particularly high among the trans community, particularly as youth, either coming out or hiding or dealing with gender identity issues, to then put them in another other category where they actually could have their genitals need to be seen to be proven is sort of the most sort of horrifying extreme of this we have seen yet. So
$50 is a lot of money for a high school kid too. I mean, it's for a fine. It's
absolutely.
I'll pay it, y'all.
But so keep an eye in Virginia, and we'll keep you posted on other similar bills as they are introduced this year. And next, this was a positive sign. We've talked a great deal about the Equality Act that was introduced as a comprehensive legislation for LGBT rights across the board, across all aspects of culture and legality, essentially. As a be-all, end-all piece of legislation with strong Democratic support, but of course facing challenges from the Republican-controlled Congress. Well, the first Republican sponsor has come on board. Representative Bob Dole of Illinois has signed on as the first Republican co-sponsor. He said, as long as any Americans can be legally discriminated against, there is not equal justice in this country. Congress must act to ensure that all Americans, including the LGBT community, are protected equally from discrimination under federal law. He did say he doesn't think the bill is perfect in its current form and may want to see larger protections for religious freedoms, which will be one of the big sticking points on this piece of legislation. But nonetheless, exciting to finally have a Republican on board with this important piece of legislation.
And a good-looking Republican, too.
I mean, doesn't that always help?
It always helps when they're good-looking.
It must have been easier back in the day when it was just newspapers or radio. People had never seen
I know, it's so
their
funny.
politicians
You could just
except in
Google.
pictures in the newspaper, maybe.
But every now and then you Google and there's 45 people and you go, which one? Which one? But this was very clear.
All right. Shall we flash through the gay news?
Let's do it. We got big political news.
Yes, we haven't talked a lot about the Democratic side of the primary process of late, but this past week, a big sort of controversy has arisen, specifically in the LGBT community. The Human Rights Campaign came out and officially endorsed by unanimous vote of the board Hillary Clinton to be the Democratic candidate for the presidential election. There was an immediate response from a spokesperson from Bernie Sanders' campaign who said, it's understandable and consistent with the establishment organizations voting for the establishment candidate, but it's an endorsement that cannot possibly be based on the facts and the record. He pointed out that Sanders voted against Don't Ask, Don't Tell in 93. He voted against the Defense of Marriage Act in 96. He supported civil unions when Vermont became the first state to enact them in 2000. And he also, in May, became the first candidate to support openly trans military service. Now, a couple of points, because I'm frustrated with the entire Sanders-Clinton fan fight that's occurring across social media of late. Both candidates answered the questionnaire from HRC 100% in the affirmative for the coming election. And there has been this frustrating reaction of people that want to ignore the flaws of their particular candidate.
Right.
On both sides. Many people have discussed their frustration with Hillary Clinton's sort of coming late to the marriage equality statement, to sort of joining in when the voices were already incredibly strong. Other people have pointed out that in 2006, after the bruising 2000 battle for civil unions, Bernie Sanders was asked about marriage equality and said, not right now, basically saying what we went through with civil unions to be the first of that, we can't do it right now, and show that as him not being completely on our side. And others have said that Bernie Sanders' support of vote against the Defense of Marriage Act and Don't Ask, Don't Tell were about states' rights more than they were about LGBT rights. So everyone, it seems of late, is looking through the lens of using the facts to support the candidate that they already support.
It seems like it, and go back to that what Bernie when he said not right now, he fought very hard for civil unions. Don't you think that was just say let's just let it rest for a second and then return to it?
Well, I think there's the reality that we have to acknowledge that at every point in their career, politicians have to prioritize what is worth spending essentially their political capital on and what isn't. And that can be extremely frustrating for people focused on a particular issue. If you look specifically at LGBT rights, candidates have grown, they have, quote, evolved. People talk about their frustration with when people happen to evolve. But to not acknowledge that every candidate has to deal with a multitude of issues at every time is sort of disingenuous, I think. And I think it's frustrating that, in 2006, he is saying, just wait a little longer. We barely survived the last fight. Well, when you're talking about equality, is there ever a right time? Well, no, there isn't. But acknowledging political expediency is a reality that I think sometimes we have to face. I think we have to say that they are both clearly have stated that they want to fight very hard for our rights going forward.
Right.
I think that's believable. I think whether you do or don't like them on other issues tends to color how you view them on LGBT issues, in my opinion.
I feel like that it's just going to keep getting very interesting because who would have thought he would make such headway at this point? You did. I mean, you kind of thought you called it. You always call it. But
Well,
I thought, she's so far ahead. I was just like, just drop out, all of you.
Well, I
But-
go back to, I think it's in all of our benefit, regardless of who ends up the candidate, for there to be incredibly strong and intelligent debate on the specifics of the issues that are important to the party that you support before they get to the general election. I think even if she continues with her national lead and gets the nomination, having a smart candidate like him to challenge her in the debates makes her a better candidate. What we can't do is go so hatefully towards each other in support of one person that we sort of destroy the motivation and excitement of the party in general.
There you go.
I think it's interesting because you watch Hillary supporters say Bernie Sanders supporters on the internet are the worst. And right now they sort of are. In 2008, it was Hillary Clinton supporters that were sort of doing the same thing about Barack Obama. It tends to be that the second place fans go really hard at the first place person. In order to equal it out. I think there has to be room between this is the person that I love and that other person is the worst thing that ever happened ever.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because we had two debates this week. What did you think?
Well, I enjoyed both of them for all the right reasons and all the wrong reasons. I mean, it's really interesting to me. Let's just go with the Republicans right now because clearly all of us thought that Trump would not last this long.
Right.
Did you?
No, I
mean,
absolutely didn't.
I just
I'm so
thought
one of those people that thought, we'll get to 30%, people will get bored like they did with Michelle Bachmann, forever ago. And no, I've certainly been proved wrong like many others.
And it's interesting to me that it doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't know if you read the fact checks the next day, but those intrigue the hell out of me of who just blatantly lied. And he continues to just not do his research. He just continues to just say stupid things, and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
That's what's shocking to me.
Yeah.
I can't stand Ted Cruz, as you know.
Absolutely. I
Cannot stand
concur.
him, but I thought he did an amazing job with that debate. I hate to say that. And then Marco Rubio continues to just nudge.
I thought his was one of the best performances. It's sort of like the substance of what all of them are saying. A lot of it just makes my brain bleed. But I thought his performance, he comes off very smart and prepared. And I thought he shut Ted Cruz down a couple of times in ways that were representative of the potential that he has as a candidate, being the youngest on the stage.
I don't think any of the rest of them have a shot. I really don't. I mean, you get some. I mean, it's like I like the ones that just flip flop from the main stage to the B team.
Yes,
Yes. It's like Christie got back. He got back.
Here we are.
He got back on.
Back at the big kids table.
He had one of the best zingers to Rubio, but He's I have to say, okay, if you just shut down everything, if you said, okay, Dell, you have to vote Republican, have to, I would have to vote for Christie.
You would?
I probably would.
It's so funny because I was realizing yesterday, as crazy as Donald Trump makes me, my concerns about Donald Trump are more on the international stage, that he would sort of destroy diplomacy with some of his blunt statements. But I'm less concerned about him on domestic social policy than any of the other candidates. So I sort of get weirdly tortured because he's not super supportive of our community, but he's also not super anti.
Right.
And so I sort of struggle. It's like I'm sort of terrified. If I don't know, if you put a gun to my head, I'd be scared.
I don't know.
And of course, yesterday,
thank God we don't have to make that decision.
Yes. But what about the Democratic debate?
Here's the deal. I have been from the I was on the Hillary train the first time around, and then of course the moment that Barack Obama got that nomination, I was very supportive and have been supportive the whole time of his presidency, and I love what he has done for our community. And I'm very fascinated also, before we get to the debate, how his rate of approval just keeps going up in these last. He just finally, for the first time in a long time, yesterday went to over 50%.
Right. I mean,
but it's hard. It's difficult. But I felt like that Bernie Sanders kind of won my heart in this debate. I started really listening a little bit more and going, oh my God, he's viable. He is absolutely viable. He is so smart. He is so, he just seems to be for us.
Right.
And I mean us as this country.
Right.
And he doesn't seem to be as crazy as this sounds. I guess it's personable. He seems to be like, if I wanted to sit down and have lunch with somebody, I think he would be more real than Miss Clinton. You know?
Well, it's interesting. This is what I always go back to.
Senate.
I think part of much of the appeal of him is, one, the degree to which he has stated all of these sort of anti-establishment, let's sort of bring it all down and start over things in this gruff way. But the flip side is there's something that she suffers from as a woman that's sort of anti-feminist, that she cannot take that approach. She has to be polished and professional because of the way women, particularly in politics, are perceived in our country. And I find myself not wanting to hold against her the fact that she is professional and polished, because I love what he says. I agree with the vast majority of what she says as well. And I think Martin O'Malley's very intelligent and very...
I do
and,
too.
And really pushes them on issues like gun control. But I also, when they go to talk about foreign policy, is where Bernie sort of suffers and where the depth of her knowledge and experience around the world just sort of shines. That's where it feels off the cuff, the depth of her knowledge of diplomacy and how the rest of the world is functioning and perceives us and the issues.
Right.
And to the earlier thing about HRC, many people have pointed out, Hillary Clinton did a lot of work for LGBT people in her work at the State Department. She gave a great speech in 2011 where she mentioned LGBT rights along with a list of other rights. That was sort of the first time at that level. So I think they're both great for us. I think it's great to be passionate about one particular candidate. I think we don't want to look like what we see on the other side when we fight with each other or disagree with each other on which we prefer, because we all have to show up regardless of who it ends up being.
That's right. The most humorous moments for me in the whole debate was when O'Malley kept saying, "Can I just have 20 seconds?"
I know.
He was kind of begging for those 20 seconds.
But it's funny because I look at what he's saying and compare it to anything happening on the other stage, and I'm like, yes, absolutely. He is our third-tier candidate. I would cheer and applaud and tap dance in the streets, before anyone on the other side. So
absolutely.
I am not unbiased, but you guys know that.
All right.
A couple of fun things
silly
before
stuff.
we bring in our star of the day, Mr. Steve Grand. Just a funny story that appeared on the internet. There's some question as to how much of it is true and not, but I want to share it with you guys anyway because the concept of it is hysterical. Apparently in New York City, London-based sex toy company Hot Octopus has put what they call a male stress relief booth in Manhattan. It's called the Guy-Fi. It can be found at 28th Street and 5th Avenue, complete with a chair, laptop, and curtain for male stress relief. Yes, ladies and gentlemen,
a curtain.
It is a masturbation booth at 28th Street and 5th Avenue. In their press release, they said there's no denying that working a 9-to-5 job can be stressful on both your mind and body, especially in a non-stop city like Manhattan. It's really important for guys to look after themselves so that they can stay healthy and focus properly on the task in hand. We're told time and time again how beneficial it is to have a break away from your desk. We hope the city's men enjoy using the space we've created in whatever way they want. It's completely free of charge. Del Shores, I have so many questions.
Oh, I have so many questions. Like, I just want to know if there's cleanup. I mean,
first
clean
of all,
up on
yes.
aisle
Is there a
28th
cleaning
Street?
through? Does somebody come through with wet wipes and Purell after each customer?
Do they supply lube? Was that in there?
I don't know.
No, or do
Is
you
it
have to
bring
bring
your
your
own?
own? Bring your own lube.
And
I mean,
is the laptop nailed down so no one walks away with it? And also, it's just a curtain. Is the curtain soundproof? Either for the sounds you're making inside, or how awkward is it to hear somebody hailing a cab while you're getting to your climax?
And what about the line? Would you hurry up in there? I am, or even as close. The closer you get, the hornier you get if you're hearing. And
I know.
I mean,
I gotta be honest. I would want to go stand outside of it, not to use the booth because y'all, like, if you can't make it home, like, you might have some other issues you need to deal with. But to just wait, 5, 10, 20, whatever, 2.5, 30 seconds it is for the person to see who comes out of using that booth.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you get that there?
I did.
Also,
I did.
and more importantly, is there one for women? How rude! Like, women don't need stress relief. Is there a little place, like a nice little sofa?
You
maybe,
are such a giver.
an on-the-street water faucet? Whatever the particular approach they offer to women, but equality.
Yes, there's.
I mean, what do you call it? A wo-fi? The guy-fi and the wo-fi.
All right. And
Hot octopus. Get on that.
Yes, and we have another silly story, and then we're going to bring Steve in. The city official has resigned. The city official has resigned after a man in drag. This is the craziest story. Sue Steinhaus was the director of senior services and executive director of the Senior Enrichment Center in Cranston, Rhode Island. On January 5th, she hosted an outdoor press conference about a snow shoveling program. For some reason, she wanted an elderly woman to appear in the background of the photo op.
Makes sense.
So rather than getting a real elderly woman, she went to a lot of trouble. She convinced a van driver at the senior center to put on a wig, earrings, lipstick, and blush with a name tag that said Cranston Senior Home Resident. He stood behind her. It's not even that convincing. Look at him. He looks like Pat from Saturday Night Live, right? And he stood behind her while she spoke to the camera, and no one was fooled. So the city council president, John Lanny, said he believed that Steinhaus was intentionally trying to deceive people. No shit. As a result, she resigned, and this is my favorite part, and has gone into hiding. She has gone into hiding, y'all. The only person talking is Elaine Mancuso, the salon owner who provided the wig for Roberts to wear. She said, he says to me, Elaine, do you have a wig I could borrow? I have to get dressed as a senior. After seeing the press conference, she said, oh my God, he wanted it for that? I would have given him a better wig if I'd only known.
It's my favorite part. Poor Elaine. She was like, I gave him one of my third tier wigs. If I'd known he was going to wear it on the TV, I'd have given him a better one.
Oh my God, it's hard to get through that story.
But also, how is this woman that is the director of senior services so afraid of using an actual senior woman?
Maybe she thought she'd fall out.
I mean, is
don't
she
know.
not really connected to the group of people that she's supposed to be the director of? Surely there is a senior woman of some kind in Cranston, Rhode Island that could have stood there in the background to represent them.
I would think so.
There has to be more to this story.
Yes.
I mean, because that's absolutely insane.
It's really crazy. I cannot wait for her to come out of hiding so we can ask questions.
Yes, hopefully there will be a follow-up.
So, all right.
All right, well, we are going to take a quick break and bring in Mr. Steve Grand.
And you're going to listen to him while we bring him in. So, stay with us.
Enjoy this track.
Some
And we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, this is super exciting. We've talked about him on the show for a number of the reasons, all the way back to, I was just looking, 2.5 years ago, Steve Grand released All American Boy on the interweb and absolutely took the world by storm. And since, he has become the third most successful music artist fundraiser on Kickstarter. His YouTube channel has over 10 million views, including almost 5 million for the original video. He has toured for charity and for prides, and he has attended the Marine Ball and has become an incredible example of a successful indie music artist and a great example in our community of what it means to be openly out from the beginning of your introduction publicly. How's that? Welcome, Steve Graham.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, welcome to our show. We talk about you behind your back all the time.
I've heard some of the things.
Yeah.
I've heard some of the things.
Well,
That's
we,
good.
we we really love what you do, and thank you so much for joining us in the studio. So it's good to be. What are you doing here?
I'm happy to be here. I'm doing lots of things. I'm getting involved in this T-shirt company, and we just shot a commercial on Monday. It sounds like a bigger deal than it is. And then yesterday was Tuesday, right? Yeah.
Yes, all day.
I was in the studio all day working on new tracks. I got a lot of new material that I'm working on that I'm so excited about. And today I did the same. And then now I'm here with you guys. So it's been a busy time, and a lot of not really much like playtime, but I just love what I do. And I'm just having a great time doing it.
Well, that's so awesome. Since we have you for a little while, which is super exciting, we're sort of going to go for full Barbara Walters, and
Okay,
I'd love to go.
I'll lean back a little then.
There it is. Yeah, relax.
I'm gonna try to make you cry before the end of the
and
interview.
I was
Just
like,
sob like Barbara Walters does to all those poor people.
That's
It's,
so
it's pretty hard to get to me at this
uncomfortable.
point.
Is
you know?
that? Are you that jaded? Have you?
No,
got
I'm not.
that-
No, I'm not jaded.
Not jaded,
No.
thick-skinned.
You come out of it, I think, either one of two ways, and one is to just learn to really laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
After literally like every mean thing that is possible to say about you has been said.
Right.
Yes.
And you could either, with that, you could either become really jaded and angry at the world, or you could just kind of laugh and really just choose to look at, wow, like how great and how silly and how awesome it is that I'm even in this position where people even care to talk about what I do. And like with that, there's a certain amount of power, and it's fun. And then once you really know yourself, like I feel like I've really gotten to over these last few months, it's been a really sobering time in a lot of ways. And I feel like really for the first time ever, I could say honestly that I really love the person that I am. I love the person that I've become through all of this. And I've fallen on my face so many times in it, and I have the scars and the bruises to prove it. But I wouldn't have it any other way now. Like everything that I've been through, it's made me who I am, and I love that person. And it's like I'm really not doing anything that should upset anyone that much. I know that in my heart. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just having a good time with it and just being myself. And
Well, we talked about it. I mean, when there was we weren't going to lead off with this, but you want to return to this?
Yeah, let's come back to that
yeah,
in a minute.
Let's start with.
Well, because I think that's such a healthy, positive approach, and I think particularly it's so interesting because so much your success is built so much off of social media and the virality of just regular people loving what you do and sharing it with other people, all the way back to the beginning. And I wanted to ask. But when you were shooting the original video, at this point where you think, I'm finally ready, I've spent my life, loving music and playing the piano and writing my own songs, and this is the thing that I really want to start with. What was it like for you deciding, I want to start openly me from the beginning, to make it clear in the video in a way that so many artists, I think, across all art fields are afraid to do?
Right. I mean, I feel like things have changed so much, even in the years since I've been in high school, since I've gone to college. And I remember I was entertaining the idea out loud to a friend when I was 18 in college. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I should, just be more ambiguous with it to begin with. And he was like, no one's going to buy that. He's like, no one's going to believe you're straight. And honestly, after that, it was like, I never looked back. And I realized, like, yeah, that's true. And it's going to be a waste of time. I'm not a good faker. I'm not a good liar, and I have no desire to do that. And this could be a really great thing. I didn't think, even back then, like now, it seems like such a silly thing to focus on and talk about, because at least in my world and in every circle that I come in contact with, it's not even something that is any issue or talked about or anything like that. Like I don't encounter homophobia. Like not any that I take, serious to any degree whatsoever. Really, the only homophobia I face is from other gay people. But yeah, what, I don't even know.
No, that's
well,
great.
you know what I love, and in Emerson saying you started out. I love the Shelley Wright's quote about you, where she said she called you brave and out.com, and she said this is uncharted territory. As you know, I came out after having been in the business for years. He's trying to get into the business. Well, you certainly did get into the business, but you did it your way, and it was such a crazy time, I would think, for you, because it was for us. And watching it, I just remember, July the 2nd, seeing that video, putting it on my fan page, and then watch it. I would go to your fan page on Facebook and watch it gain like 10,000 people a day. It just was just building at such a rate, and watching that video just go crazy viral. And then you're like suddenly on Entertainment Tonight and CNN. And what was that like for you? I mean, did you have management? Did you have people? Did you have a team, or was it just you going, yeah, I'll do that?
It was really mostly just me and a close family friend that kind of got into it as things were really blowing up. Man, it's like I need to like write a book about this whole.
You should.
experience.
I really do.
I feel like I'm now finally. It's like in my rear view mirror enough where I could actually kind of see it, and I haven't really organized my thoughts. I was thinking about this because I'm like, we're gonna talk about all this stuff, and now that I'm like done, just like coming on radio shows to be like, oh, everything's good. I love the fans. It's just like I just want to talk to people.
Yeah,
like, that's what I like want to do with you guys, and it seems like we could do that here, which is great. And I do, love what I do, and I do love my fans living there.
No, but
sorry, my brain keeps skipping around. I was just recording and.
But knowing that they're like being excited to share something, but having it be that explosive and sort of life changing in the period of like 5 days, and then suddenly be thrust into major mainstream media spotlights. Like internally, was there a like, yes, this is what I hoped for, or was this like, oh wow,
slow down? I mean, because it was fast.
It was funny because I really, up until this point, I've been saying, yeah, it was so amazing, it was overwhelming. But now when I really look back, now that like I feel like I'm much more of an adult now, and it really was like, I don't like regret saying this, but it was. I think now when I really talk about it with someone like a close friend, I talk about it like someone would talk about an incident of trauma in their life.
Yeah,
I really feel like
absolutely.
It was, and when I look back, I can't even like watch anything from that
immediate period.
Yeah, it really was like it was traumatic in a lot of ways. It was really exciting, but at the same time, there was this, because I wasn't like whole. I was still so unsure about so many things about myself, not having to do with being gay, but just me as a person. And I was really still struggling to love myself and to know myself. And when you are projected times a million for the world to see, and you're like still getting it together, you feel like in a really like honest way, you're just another human being that's trying to do your best in the world like everyone else is. And then you're projected times a million, and you feel so vulnerable, and all these parts of you that you're really trying to start to be okay with are being like attacked and ripped from you. That's traumatic.
Yeah.
And so I think that I do look at it like kind of like a period of trauma. And that's not to say That's not to
That's
like,
not in a
make
negative way, but
headline.
no,
I'm sorry,
not at
can I
all.
swear?
Yes, of course.
It's not coming off that way at all. I mean, I'm sure you've learned you don't have to read it all. I mean, I've been doing this a lot longer than you have, and a lot of negative things have been said, but it still hurts. I mean, when you feel that, you see that stuff, but you have to focus on those positive things, which it feels like to me that you're really doing. I mean, I love the humor that you bring to, like, we read your Jim thing the other day on the show.
Jim Bro.
That was hysterical, and I love it. It was like, just a little wink at yourself, and
right.
And
there's been a saving grace to not take myself so seriously and all this, because it really is all so silly. Like I don't even share like what I think about politics or anything like that. Like I'm dealing with such like a lighthearted part of myself on social media, and it's like that shouldn't have said anyone. And if it does, it's fine, because I've been through, with me. I really have to push everything to the far extreme in my creativity. For instance, like just now I was recording vocals, and we're trying to figure out how much reverb to get. And I start by just pushing it all the way. And from there, then I rein it in. And same thing with, the trajectory of the way that I've interacted on social media. I was really trying, like, how safe could I be, and how like little could I let on with like still being like, interesting and engaging, but like, oh no, someone like said that wasn't good to do, so I'm not going to do that. And after a while, like you like lose your edge. And I just felt like I would go into interviews, I would go to talk to people, and I was just this like rounded out blob. and it wasn't. It was stopped being fun. I stopped believing what I was saying, and I feel like I could see it on my face. And I think people feel it, whether subconsciously or consciously, that it's like not, this person isn't really feeling what they're saying. And that's like, and at that point I realized like, wow, I'm miserable doing this. People are still attacking everything I'm doing. Like I might as well just like really be who I am, because I'm still figuring that out, and it's going to be clumsy and it's going to be silly. So I need to learn to laugh at myself, because this is going to be awkward. I'm going to stumble, I'm going to fall, and I just have to learn to be the first one to laugh at myself.
I think people like you to be. I mean, look at let's say it's her birthday yesterday, 70 years old, Dolly Parton, who I've had several meetings with, and she is exactly the same. Exactly the same. If you're one-on-one with her, as I see her on anything, any talk show, anything, she is exactly the same. So I think you have to claim your authentic self, and just go fuck it.
Well, and I do, but I think you're so right. I think so many people, particularly that engage really a lot with social media, and I think that's part of what the Grand Fam fans love, is that you are very authentic and sort of honest, and that self-deprecation is a great way to deal with not defining your boundaries based on everyone else's sensitivities. Certainly we all want to be sensitive, and clearly you do as well, but if that defines like what you can and can't express about literally living your own life, you get to the point where you're like giving Miss America world peace answers on everything.
We don't need any more of that in the world. Like we need people that are real, and I'm so okay now with that I'm going to upset people along the way, but I'm confident that the people that I'll gain are going to be people that I probably would be more likely to enjoy a conversation with, people that I would actually have in my life as as friends or something like that.
I want to ask you, 6 months before that broke, what was happening in your life? What was a day?
It's so
like?
funny.
Not the whole day, but
I feel for the first time ever right now how I did in the months leading up to releasing All American Boy. I feel I was really focused. I was working really hard. I was recording as much as possible. I was like really refining my vision, and I really believed that what I was working on was really good, and it was valid, and that it deserved to be heard. Which is sometimes like.
Were you
rare.
performing live a lot?
Yeah,
like,
I
was in Chicago.
I was playing at this bar, The Joint, 2 nights a week. I get $100 for playing for 2 hours and some tips, and that's what I was doing. And then I was also playing at churches. Where I made most of my money actually. I played on Sundays like all day. I would start really early in the morning, and then I'd drive to the south side of Chicago and then back to the suburbs, and it was a big day of back and forth. And I like doing that. I'm not religious, but
You grew up Catholic, right?
Yeah, I did grow up Catholic, yeah.
And I'm curious, we don't, not to dwell forever, but our film Southern Baptist Sissies, we talk a lot about how many people across the country in the LGBT community, have damaged from the conflict between sexuality and the religion they were raised with. Was that like really significant earlier and then dealt with by this point?
Yeah, I mean that's all been dealt with, but that was a big thing. I mean and it's like I've talked about this stuff so much, but it's like like my parents would like lay out the Bible. And when I was going through my whole thing, it's like the verses about Sodom and Gomorrah and all that kind of stuff. But it's like that stuff has been dealt with, and it's like at this point, it's like I've been talking about that so much because I think it's important for people to hear. But at the same time, like we need to learn to like forgive people and move on. And I think that's true even on a macro level in our world. Like most, even politicians, even ones today that are like championing gay rights, were not even for it 10 years ago. So like let's let people be where they are now, and let's not hold them to everything that they've done in the past.
I think that's very true, and we talk about that, about the ability to allow, once people arrive, to forgive some of the things that came before as healthy both individually and as a community once they get there. I mean, we certainly hold particularly religious conservatives and politicians responsible a little bit beyond that sometimes because of the damage they do to so many LGBT teens, and that's something that still really exists even though huge parts of our countries are super accepting. But I think you're right. I think we have to remember that as people evolve, quote, we were talking about politics earlier, that we need to let that happen, that some of it is on us to welcome people who arrive.
And we've seen it, I mean, over and over ago. I mean, when Obama came out and with supporting gay marriage, and then later Hillary, and everybody's going, well, too late to the party. Party. We
Shut
saw a
up.
lot of that in our community, and I'm going, or someone that came out, some celebrity that came out, and people are like, Jodie Foster. I remember on the Golden Globes, it just wasn't enough what she said.
It's
it
never
just wasn't enough.
And that's the thing.
You
It's
know?
like, and now people, it's never the right thing to do, whether to come out, because then you're either doing it for publicity, or you're gonna, this person's gonna ruin their career. Why did you have to tell everyone about your personal life? And it's like there's no right answer, and it's a mountain of crazy. Because
But we need to be more supportive of each other. That's what I can't, after that day that Jody did that, and then everybody was so mean.
I think you need to let go of when you say everybody. I think where I've gotten now, and I mean, you've experienced all this so much longer, but just what has helped me, I don't think of like an everyone anymore. There are people that say, there's a bell curve, right?
Yeah.
Of like
True. You're right.
Of opinion and thought, and you don't comment on something on the internet if you are in this 99% bell curve. You comment if you have a strong opinion either way.
It's a good way to look at it.
And like, so you're not really like when you go out into the real world, it's like that's why there's such a difference between what you're reading on your Facebook feed and like what is going on the streets. Like just when you're, like people that I encounter, it's like most people aren't screaming in your face about Trump or Caitlyn Jenner or anything. It's people are generally pretty reasonable, and they're not the ones that
they're
are
hoping to pay the
sitting-
bills. That's
Right?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all just trying to do the best we can, and
Yeah, well, and switching back to the music for a little bit, early on there was that, the out country star was the sort of title that the blogosphere put on it, but it's not really accurate reflection of what your musical tastes and influences are. I read that it was sort of Schroeder inspired your like young piano obsession. What were your favorite sort of influences? What was the music that you were obsessed with that guided you into this sort of, and what would you describe your current aesthetic as?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the country thing, I never said I was country, and that's another thing that all this stuff gets so crazy, and it's like I could beat it. That I could get so upset about that I have to address that every time I'm announced. Like, no, country singers. And I'm like, oh, but it's like I just. If you start to let, things like that bother you, it's just like you can't. So that's fine, whatever. I don't think I'm a country artist. American Boy sounds a little country. That's probably the most country thing that on my whole record, for people that listen to my record. What I'm doing going forward really doesn't have any kind of tinge of country in it. It's a very pop. It's a kind of like a mixture of stripped down acoustic music with really big, cathedral sounding drums. It's really, really cool. And going, to my influences, I guess I would say really what got me so into music was the piano, Schroeder, and it was really like the aesthetic of the piano even was like a big thing for me. It's like the aesthetic of it, the instrument I thought was so beautiful. I think that was actually my first draw, and like I just was so fascinated with that someone could like sit at this box and like make all these different sounds and make you feel all different kinds of ways, and you're dealing with just these keys, all these little black and white keys, and they all play different ways. They could say all different things.
And so what were the people that sort of you fell in love with earliest?
My dad really got us into like all the British invasion music, and like of course the Beatles that was like when I started to get into rock and roll, and that's where I wanted to start writing music, because I was like, oh, I learned all this stuff on playing piano, and I was doing classical music, but there's rock music, and it's actually really kind of a simplified version of classical music, but now we're just singing and talking about these kind of things. So I got really into that. And then in high school, I, kind of like the whole emo indie rock thing was going on, and I was really into like Fall Out Boy, because they were from Chicago too, and like From First to Last and The Used and like bands that would scream. I was like into all that stuff.
Nice. Well, no, for you with the process, and I know some people don't love talking about it, but when you approach like the inspiration for new ideas, is yours melody and instrumentation first? Is it like here's a lyric that or does it go back and forth? What inspires the writing part of the process?
It's usually an idea. It's usually like one line. This is like the very
Sure.
simplified
Yeah. I mean,
answer.
and of course, it doesn't have to be.
But then I'm going to say something else. It's usually like a melody with words that are an idea, like some kind of hook that I could build something around. That's usually the best sign that I'm going to have something to work with. 99% of those ideas never go beyond that. And then also, it's just important to keep in mind, like for songwriters out there, I now say songwriting is a kind of thing like you feel like it's your first time every time you write a song.
Right.
It feels clumsy. You never know where to start. And it's just, and once you learn to embrace that, you could let it be fun again.
I love that. And I loved watching like the sort of last minute inspiration for this holiday video of you being like, I decided yesterday that I'm going to do this and like I recorded it today and now I'm on an airplane and like nobody knows. And here I am driving to Palm Springs with Trevor LaPaglia and we shot a video and here it is.
That really was how it is. Yeah.
That's sort of amazing. And I think it seemed like a lot of people really loved that sort of wistful approach to, the holidays can be
I
challenging
loved the
for people.
version too. By the way, I was in spinning class this morning, and Tommy Wolfel, my spinning instructor, loves you, and he plays you all the time. And he said, Steve Grant's going to be on Dell's show today, and your DP, Veronica, was in the spinning class, and she said to say hello to you.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she just moved here.
Yes. But sorry, what were you going to say?
No, well, and I do want to talk about this for a minute. And
Sometimes it sounds like I'm about to say something, and I don't. Similarly, like when it just sounds like I'm never going to end. Like my sentences never stop, and you don't know when I.
Yeah, he does the same thing. He like stops in the middle of a sentence, and it's okay, and I'll just keep talking.
I look at my stand-up shows, and I go, how do they follow me? I don't even know. I mean, I can't follow what I'm doing.
It's like a train. We jump on and off at leisure. But, I loved from the beginning. I loved the video. I loved the sort of positive approach of having a straight guy that rejects someone in a way that's not horrifying, that sort of represents the growth of our culture. And so I'd been a fan from the beginning. But genuinely, it was last year and your response that I know came out of frustration to the way LGBT media portrays people at times. And I sort of loved the honest way in which you said, this is really frustrating because I've watched as you've performed at prides all across the country, performing for all different kinds of charity organizations from HIV to youth education and all of these things, and then having it continually associated with purely physical representations. And I know that afterwards you were like, whatever, I shouldn't have, but I thought your statement was really profound about I'm just a guy who loves what I do and loves sharing that with the fans who choose to enjoy it, but I have really difficult days and depressing days, and it's frustrating. Not that you show that, because clearly, like, you're a handsome man and you tongue-in-cheek, and like the Under Armour shot from the other day was great, but it seemed that you were saying just a more complete representation.
Yeah.
Of who I am and what I do.
That's exactly what I was asking for. But of course, did that get smushed down into Steve Grant doesn't want to be objectified? Never. It was like literally was that like the headline. It was like Steve Grant wants you to stop posting shirtless pictures of him. And I was like, all I said was, and I was so careful about what I said. I said
it was beautifully worded,
was like,
by the way.
Thank you. And the single tweet that started, and then after that, I kind of got a little angry, and I was just I was like drunkenly tweeting, and it was awful. But but I think I was consistent the whole time. I don't think I've ever, and like people will check me on this. People won't put any effort into like the going back to find the good things I've said, but they will put effort into finding me contradict myself when I say this now. But I don't think I've ever asked to not be objectified. I think that and if I did, I'm sorry that I'm a human being, and if like this whole thing with people just thinking about everything so black and white, it's like, well, yeah, of course, like I like working out, and like I look pretty good, and I'm like happy about that. I feel really lucky. I also work really hard on it. And like sometimes I just want to be like, yeah, like I feel good about like I look good in this picture, and like I'm gonna share it with my people now.
Well, you
and
should.
For so long I didn't do that, and it was just like those same shots
Right.
of me when I was like 19. I did like 2 photo shoots or 3 that were just like those were like the images that became associated with it, which I have no problem with. I have no shame. I just like I look back at them like you would look back at your high school shot.
Sure.
Because that was like me a while ago, and it's like, it's just they're so overdone, and like I'm just like, it's like I just don't like them. I just don't think I don't like how I look, and I think they're like icky and kind of like over sexualized, and I don't like seeing myself be represented that way like every single time.
Well,
keyword every single time.
and I thought it was
Not
really
ever.
fair because I had this conversation with a bunch of people in our town, people that work in LGBT media, other out actors, and I forced this conversation irritatingly so on a lot of people because I said, here's what happened, and a number of people said that's what he puts out all the time, and I said that's the problem, and that's what he's saying is because I didn't think there was any.
Well, now I do
embarrassment.
put it out all the time.
Well,
because
no.
I was like, I don't care. Fine.
Well, now it's fuck it. It's like
it
fuck
really,
it.
it really is. So
You
like
got
I,
to the fuck
yeah.
it place, which is a good place for you to be because we were worried. We said, no, don't go away. You were saying, oh, I'm going to close my Twitter and said, no, don't do that. I mean, maybe.
Well, I said I was just going to take a break, which was good.
But I think the way that you've chosen to handle it, that you said at the very beginning of this, the self-deprecation, the approach of like, this is really me. I'm not going to censor it all the time. You can, if you choose to get upset, you can look somewhere else. You don't have to. People don't have to follow you. That's always my favorite thing. If you don't like what somebody's doing, like, don't show up. Like,
Right.
don't watch, don't look, don't click, don't whatever. But I thought that it was a very mature response, and I thought it was really fair of what you said, and that really is what gained me the most respect for you beyond the artistry. So I'm serious about the applause for your willingness to say, just show the whole picture, and I think that's a fair ask.
And in being, to continue to be fair, like I don't, I think I did say some things that I'm not happy with myself that I said, and I probably targeted certain publications that I shouldn't have. But like after this, like I'm probably not gonna I'm just gonna be like, let's not go. But I know because you guys were really on my team with this, I wanted to talk about it with you.
Well, but
it's just it's a silly thing, and.
But I think it goes beyond you, and the reason we talked about it, and the reason I think it's important is because you as a celebrity, certainly there's a lot of eyes paying attention, but I watch people do the same thing within our community, we're all different, whatever, but in the media world of people complaining about how some people Instagram, how some people tweet, how things are thirsty. We do it to not famous people too, so I think it's an important issue in our community for it to be okay for each person to put themselves out there the way that makes them happy. So that's why I thought it was a good example.
At the same token though, like I'm all about that, like I'm putting myself out there this way, and like I whatever comes my way, like everyone has just as much right as I do to post it to like say like horrible things to me. I absolutely support that, and that's part of this whole thing. Like I'm very principled, and like, I really support people being able to say whatever they want, no matter how horrible and disgusting it is, because I so believe that in the end, like we really do find the truth in all the craziness.
Well,
Do you want to ask about Carrie real quick?
Oh, you said something. I have a daughter who suffers from depression, and you said in that statement, and it really that touched my heart. That you go, okay, you're a human being. How's that going?
Really, really, really good. I've never been happier in my life, and I really was scared. Really up until the last couple months, when I started to kind of cut back on drinking, and I really got on the right medication. I really was scared. Like I would lay awake at night and I would be like, am I gonna ever live a day where I know what it's like to not feel this incredible weight, like this is like this crushing anxiety, like I feel like it feels physical, like it's so intense. And I was like, I was horrified, and it would keep me up at night, the idea that I would never live a day of my life not really knowing what it would feel like to have that burden lifted. And I finally, after these last couple months, I feel for the first time ever that I know what that's like, and I feel like if I were to die tomorrow, if I were like dying and going down on a plane, I would just be so happy that I got to know what it feels like right now to be free of that burden, to be free of that crushing weight.
All right. Well, that's a great way to go out on this show. We've got to go. We love you, Steve Grand. I love what you've done for our community. I love the images that you give us and all of the inspiration that you give so many young people, that you can do it, you can dream, and you can have this dream. So thank you for being our guest, and thank you for all you do.
And genuinely, for being such a great example of being honest and authentic without attempting to be perfect, I think that's one of the best examples we can set. So through your music and your life. If you want to find Steve Grand, you can find all of the information at stevegrand.com. Follow him on all social media at Steve Grand Music.
Yes.
And of course, All American Boy is available on iTunes. There's a great Benny and the Jets cover as well. And make sure that you subscribe on his YouTube channel to get new videos, new music videos, but also great behind the scenes videos. Yes? Did I get it all?
Yes, you got that. Was really great. Yo, and I have a We Are the Night video coming out like in a couple weeks.
Awesome.
And for Day by Day Remix It, it's going to be
We'll play it
fantastic.
on the show. Thank you so much, Steve Grand. We will see you guys next week. Tony Sweet is up next, and then we've got Jasper Colt and Ann Walker on UBN.
Bye,
Thank you so
y'all.
much for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's
This is Dr. D and
UBNradio.com.
neuropsychology. You might ask yourself, what does my brain have anything to do with my life? Well, the answer is everything. Your mind, body, and soul are one. Tune in to the Dr. D Show every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific on Channel 2 to get wiser for a better, more powerful life.